Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. If you've ever felt totally wiped out after just relaxing on your phone, well, you're in exactly the right place. We're going to break down the hard data and the actual neurobiology behind how our nightly scrolling habits are secretly hijacking our rest and honestly cranking up our daily anxiety.
We all do it, right? We get into bed, pull up the covers, and open our feeds just to unwind. But somehow we end up falling down some 2 a.m. meme rabbit hole. And then, maybe 30 or 40 minutes later, we actually feel way more wired and exhausted than when we started. It's a total paradox. You specifically chose an activity to relax, but your brain feels like it just ran a literal marathon.
And hey, if you do this, you're absolutely not alone. Around the globe, a staggering 4.9 billion active users are spending an average of 2.5 hours every single day on these platforms. Think about that number. This isn't just some isolated bad habit. It's a universal human experience that's affecting the vast majority of the planet. So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll cover the digital era paradox, your brain on social media, and the stolen sleep mechanism. Then we'll look at comparison, FOMO and anxiety, active versus passive scrolling, and wrap up with reclaiming your mental rest.
Starting right off with Section 1, the digital era paradox.
Let's look at this incredible quote from Jefferson Health because it really hits the nail on the head. It points out that social media drives surges of dopamine to the brain, resulting in a high similar to gambling or using drugs. You might think you're just chilling out, but you are unknowingly firing up your brain's most intense reward systems. Every like, share, and comment is engineered to give you a little dopamine hit, basically putting your brain into a neurological loop. That is the exact opposite of winding down. Moving on to Section 2. Your brain on social media. To really understand the data here, we gotta speak the language of your brain. Your brain actually alters its electrical rhythms based entirely on what you're doing. Alpha waves, those signify a calm resting state. Beta and gamma waves surge when you're highly alert. And delta waves, well, those are usually tied to deep sleep, or if you're awake, they indicate profound cognitive fatigue. Now, the timeline of a scrolling session shows us exactly where things go off the rails. Before you even open your phone, your resting alpha waves are nice and elevated. But the split second you start scrolling, poof, those relaxing alpha waves vanish. Your beta and gamma waves spike, putting you on extremely high alert. And here's the real kicker. After about 30 minutes, your delta waves spike. That means your brain is experiencing literal, measurable cognitive fatigue from processing all those rapid-fire stimuli. And your brain also reacts intensely to what you are actually looking at. If you're doom scrolling through negative news or intense political debates, studies show this suppresses those relaxing alpha brainwaves for 40% longer than if you were just looking at lighter stuff like travel photos or memes. You're effectively locking your brain into a state of high alert for a much longer time. Which brings us to Section 3, the stolen sleep mechanism. Research shows that using social media in the 30 minutes before bed makes you a staggering 62% more likely to experience sleep disturbances. I mean, just think about that for a second. You are intentionally introducing a massive stimulant right at the exact moment your body is desperately trying to shut down. So your sleep is essentially being stolen through a triple threat. First up, emotionally stimulating content spikes your heart rate, delaying sleep onset. Second, the blue light from your screen actively suppresses melatonin. That's the hormone that literally tells your body it's time to sleep. And third, it's just simple time displacement. You get caught in the infinite scroll, and you quite literally lose the hours you were supposed to spend resting. Researchers over at the International Journal of Indian Psychology published findings showing that disrupted sleep is the ultimate mediator. What that means is the screen time ruins your rest, and that ruined rest is the specific biological mechanism that directly triggers your daytime emotional distress and anxiety. It's a total cascading effect. Let's look at Section 4, comparison, FOMO, and anxiety. When you're exhausted and your emotional regulation is shot from a bad night's sleep, you become deeply, deeply susceptible to FOMO. The fear of missing out is a massive psychological vulnerability driven by our basic human need to belong. You look at a screen and your tired brain instantly perceives that literally everyone else is living a richer, happier life without you. Because of that lack of sleep, your defenses are totally down against these massive daily anxiety drivers. You end up engaging in constant upward social comparison. Comparing your messy behind-the-scenes reality to everyone else's perfectly curated highlight reel. Add in a continuous bombardment of idealized images, cyberbullying risks, and nonstop doom scrolling, and you've got a perfect recipe for chronic anxiety. The research clearly links this digital stress directly to impaired well-being, which creates a really vicious cycle. Poor sleep drives you back to the screen seeking comfort, right? But that scrolling only amplifies your FOMO, driving your anxiety even higher, which in turn ruins your sleep all over again the very next night.
Let's pivot to Section 5, active versus passive scrolling. The experimental data shows a really massive difference here, based on how you actually use your phone. Passive browsing, meaning silently, endlessly scrolling through strangers' lives without interacting, is highly destructive to your well-being. It drives up feelings of envy, depression, and FOMO. But active engagement, like posting or directly messaging your friends, that can actually be protective and foster the positive social connections your brain is desperately craving.
And it turns out the specific platform matters too. Highly visually stimulating apps like TikTok and Snapchat are heavily linked to significantly more fragmented sleep and negative mental health outcomes compared to text-based platforms. Those constant, rapid dopamine hits from short-form videos just carry a much, much heavier cognitive load on your brain.
Finally, Section 6, reclaiming your mental rest.
Clinical studies prove that you don't necessarily have to go completely off the grid and throw your phone in the ocean to fix this. Taking 3 simple, evidence-based steps can significantly drop your daily anxiety. Number 1, establish a strict 30-minute pre-bed digital curfew. Number 2, use self-monitoring tracking apps to hold yourself accountable. And number 3, consciously transition your habits from passive scrolling to active, meaningful connection. Look, changing behavior is incredibly hard, so we have to rely on what researchers call the health belief model. Basically, once you are truly aware of the severe neurological risks, once you actually see the hard data on what scrolling does to your brainwaves and your sleep architecture, you finally build that internal motivation to empower yourself and put the phone down. So, I want to leave you with this final thought. If your screen dictates your brainwaves, steals your sleep, and amplifies your anxiety before you even wake up, who is really in control of your day? It's definitely something to chew on before you reach for your phone tonight. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this empowers you to take your rest back.